Donald Trump just walked into Secret Service headquarters unannounced. What he did next left everyone speechless. The Secret Service headquarters in Washington, D.C., is a place where every move is calculated, every step planned, and every detail controlled. It's not the kind of place where surprises happen, especially not from someone as high profile as a former president. Agents are trained to expect the expected, to follow strict protocols, and to handle even the most intense situations with precision. But on this particular morning, all of that went out the window. Without warning, a motorcade pulled up to the entrance. No scheduled meetings, no heads-up, no press. Just Trump, stepping out with his usual confidence, flanked by only a handful of staff. The moment he walked through those doors, the energy in the building shifted. Agents exchanged uneasy glances, whispering to each other, trying to figure out what was going on. No one had been briefed. No one had a clue. And then, he did something no one saw coming. What happened next would leave everyone in the room stunned, and change the way they saw him forever. The motorcade pulled up to the Secret Service headquarters without warning. Black SUVs, sleek and silent, rolled to a stop outside the main entrance. No announcement, no schedule, no heads-up. Agents stationed at the door exchanged quick glances, their training kicking in, but their confusion was clear. This wasn't part of the plan. Moments later, the door of one of the SUVs swung open, and out stepped Donald Trump. Dressed in his signature suit and tie, he moved with the same confidence he always carried, like he owned the place. Behind him, a small team of staff followed, but there were no cameras, no reporters, no fanfare. Just Trump, walking straight into the building like it was any other day. Inside, the atmosphere shifted immediately. Agents who had been going about their routines froze mid-step. Whispers broke out across the room. "Why is he here?" one agent muttered under his breath. Another shook his head, eyes fixed on the former president as he passed through security without missing a beat. "No clue," he replied, his voice low. "But this isn't normal." Trump didn't stop to shake hands or make small talk. He didn't crack a joke or flash his usual smile. He just kept walking, his eyes forward, like he was on a mission only he understood. The agents watched him, their training telling them to stay calm, but their instincts screaming that something was off. Whatever was about to happen, they knew one thing for sure. This wasn't going to be a typical day at headquarters. Trump moved through the security checkpoint like it was nothing. The metal detectors beeped, but he didn't pause, didn't even glance back. Agents watched, unsure whether to stop him or let him pass. He wasn't following the usual route, the one reserved for visitors and high-profile guests. Instead, he turned down a hallway that was clearly marked restricted access. The moment he stepped into that corridor, the tension in the room spiked. Agents stiffened, their eyes darting to each other. This wasn't just unusual, it was against every protocol they had. A senior agent, a no-nonsense man in his 50s, stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Sir, that area is off-limits." Trump didn't even look at him. He kept walking, his pace steady, like he hadn't heard a word. The agent hesitated, caught between doing his job and not wanting to escalate the situation. Behind him, younger agents exchanged nervous glances. "What's he doing?" one whispered. No one had an answer. The restricted hallway was narrow, lined with heavy steel doors and security cameras. The air felt colder, quieter, like the building itself was holding its breath. Trump didn't slow down. He walked straight to one of the doors, his hand reaching for the handle. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, with a sharp push, the door swung open. The agents behind him stared, their training failing to prepare them for this. Whatever was on the other side of that door, they knew one thing: this wasn't just a visit. Something big was about to happen. The room Trump walked into was unlike any other in the building. The air smelled like gunpowder and sweat, a sharp reminder that this was a place for action, not meetings. Large screens lined the walls, showing live security feeds from around the world. In the center of the room, a group of high-ranking instructors stood frozen, their eyes locked on the unexpected visitor. This was the tactical training facility, a place where elite agents practiced combat drills, live-fire simulations, and high-pressure scenarios. It wasn't a place for guests, especially not someone like Trump. He didn't hesitate. Walking straight to the center of the room, He stepped onto a training mat and looked around. "Let's see what you got," he said, his voice calm but firm. The instructors exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a burly man with a buzz cut and a scar above his eye, stepped forward. "Sir, this is a live drill facility," he said carefully. "It's not a demonstration area." Trump didn't blink. "I know exactly what it is," he replied. Then, without warning, he took off his jacket, loosened his tie, and rolled up his sleeves. The room fell silent. The lead instructor, clearly unsure how to handle the situation, stepped onto the mat. "All right, sir," he said, his tone cautious. "I'll go easy." Trump shook his head. "Don't." The instructor moved first, a quick, controlled maneuver meant to subdue, not harm. But Trump countered, not perfectly, but effectively. His movements were sharp, unexpected, like he'd done this before. The room erupted into murmurs. "Did he just?" someone whispered. The instructor adjusted his stance, this time putting more force into his next move. But Trump was ready. With a fluid motion, he blocked, shifted his weight, and in one swift move, took the instructor down. The room went completely silent. The instructor, now on the mat, looked up at Trump, confusion written all over his face. "Where the hell did you learn that?" he asked, his voice a mix of shock and disbelief. Trump didn't answer. He just adjusted his cuffs, picked up his jacket, and walked away, leaving everyone in the room stunned. No one knew what to say. No one knew what to think. But one thing was clear. This wasn't the Donald Trump they thought they knew. As Trump left the training facility, the agents inside were still trying to process what had just happened. They stood in small groups, their voices low but urgent. "Where the hell did he learn that?" one agent asked, his eyes wide. Another shook his head, replaying the moment in his mind. "I don't know, but that wasn't beginner's luck." The room, usually filled with the sounds of drills and commands, was now eerily quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. There was more to Trump than they had ever realized. Meanwhile, in a secure surveillance room deep within the building, high-ranking officials were watching the footage on a large screen. The video showed Trump's every move, from the moment he stepped onto the mat to the second he took down the instructor. The room was silent except for the hum of the monitors. One of the officials, a senior director with decades of experience, leaned back in his chair. "He didn't fight like a politician," he said finally, his voice heavy with concern. Another analyst, a woman with sharp eyes, nodded. "Those were counter-surveillance moves. He's been trained, professionally." The director stood up, his expression grim. "Get me his old security records," he ordered. The analysts exchanged uneasy glances. One of them hesitated. "Sir, those files are classified. Some of them are heavily redacted." The director didn't flinch. "I don't care. Pull them." As the team began digging through the archives, one file stood out. It was from the 1980s, and most of it was blacked out. But one line was clear: Moscow, 1987. The room fell silent again. Moscow. What was Trump doing there? And why was it classified? The questions hung in the air, unanswered but impossible to ignore. Whatever they were about to uncover, it was clear that this wasn't just about a surprise visit. This was about something much bigger, and much more secret. Trump's unexpected display of combat skills left everyone with more questions than answers. The way he moved, the precision in his counters, it wasn't something you picked up from a casual self-defense class. It was the kind of training you only got if you had a reason to need it. Was he trained? By whom? And why? The questions buzzed through the halls of the Secret Service headquarters, whispered between agents and officials who were now seeing Trump in a completely new light. 4 years, he had been seen as a businessman, a politician, a public figure. But now, there was a growing sense that there was more to him, something hidden, something deeper. The agents who had witnessed the event couldn't shake the feeling that they had only seen the tip of the iceberg. "If he knows this much," one agent muttered, "what else is he hiding?" The tension was palpable. Officials who had once thought they understood Trump were now second-guessing everything they knew. And then there were the files. The classified documents, the redacted sections, the mention of Moscow in 1987. What was in those files? Who else knew about Trump's past? The more they dug, the more questions arose. Was this just a coincidence, or was there a bigger story behind it all? The answers weren't clear, but one thing was certain. This wasn't just about a surprise visit or a display of unexpected skills. This was about secrets, secrets that Trump seemed to be hinting at without saying a word. As the day ended and the headquarters quieted down, the questions lingered. Who else knew about Trump's abilities? What was hidden in those redacted files? And why had he chosen now to reveal this side of himself? The agents and officials didn't have the answers, but they knew one thing: the game had changed. And Trump, whether they realized it or not, was still several steps ahead. Trump left the Secret Service headquarters the same way he arrived, without warning, without explanation. He stepped back into his motorcade, his tie still slightly loose, his expression unreadable. To anyone watching, it might have seemed like just another day. But for the agents inside, nothing would ever be the same. The man they had once seen as just a politician, just a public figure, was now something else entirely. He had shown a side of himself that no one expected, and it left them wondering what else they didn't know. As the motorcade drove away, the questions lingered. Was this visit just a spur-of-the-moment decision, or was it something more? Was it a reminder, a way of saying, "I'm still here and I'm still in control"? Or was it a warning, a subtle hint that there were layers to Trump that even the most powerful agencies in the world couldn't fully understand? Whatever the reason, one thing was clear: this wasn't just a visit. It was a statement. So, what do you think really happened? Was it a calculated move, or just a moment of spontaneity? Drop your thoughts below. And if you think this story is intriguing, just wait. You won't want to miss what's coming next.